Welcome to my bedroom. I am kind of switching up the location today. I wanted to be a little more comfy. I got my blanket. I've had this since I was like, oh shoot, I don't know, like 10. My aunt made it for me. So I'm all snuggled up, ready to read chapter 48 of The False Prince. Something that I hope you guys have been kind of following along with as I've been reading this week is precise language, finding that. So, description, where did you find that? Emotional appeal, were you feeling anything while I was reading? Universality, could you relate to anything that was being said? I sure hope so, because I know that I was able to. And then insight. Why was Sage doing what he was doing? Or why did King Egbert do what he was doing? Okay, things to think about. If you need to go back through any of my videos to see if you can figure out any of those, feel free. If you need any help, check out my office hours. Email me during that time. Have your parents set up a Zoom meeting for us, and I can help you out with that stuff too. All right? Other than that, the questions today are really, really simple. Okay? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Why did Connor do what he did? Again, if you have any questions at all about this, reach out. I'm here for you guys, especially with those office hours. Use them. I want to hang out with you. I want to help you. Okay? Let's jump in. Chapter 48. Connor drilled me nonstop for 4 hours. He refused to answer any knock on the door with more than an order of "go away," and denied my requests for a break to step outside and clear my head. I didn't care about most of what he told me, but I had to remember it for now, word for word, in order to repeat it back to him. Finally, in the late afternoon, Connor announced I was ready to go before the court. He declared himself an excellent teacher due to the fact that I had learned so much in such a short period of time. Little did he guess how much his student already knew. Yet there were a few things I didn't know, things I had been too young to understand when I left there as a child. Connor had provided me with details of Jaren's early life with such intimacy that I had asked him how he could know so much. "I've read the Queen's diaries," he said. "She wrote about Jaren often." Did she? It was impossible to sound as if I didn't care what my mother had really thought of me, and the curiosity burned my heart. I knew she loved me because all mothers love their children, but she had stood with my father when they first sent me away, and I had never quite gotten over that. Right? Especially if he was like Aaron's favorite and he knew that, to have her stand there next to his dad and not stop him, that, I'm sure, hurt Jaren's soul. That is something that he took with him forever. It's like, oh, maybe she didn't care about me as much. But he's learning that that she actually did a lot. Jaren had a reputation for being a difficult child, I said. Did she ever forgive him for that? Connor smiled. Interesting choice of words, Sage, to assume she thought there was anything about Jaren that needed forgiveness. She believed he was just like her. He may have been difficult, but she loved him all the more for it. We had to move on quickly from that conversation. It was too close to me, too hard to think about. Connor also provided me with a convenient story of how I escaped the pirates. According to him, I had seen their ship approaching and escaped in a rescue boat moored to the ship. I had hidden in Avenian orphanages in fear all this time, coming forward only when I heard rumors of the deaths of Egbert and Aaron. I urged him to change the story a little. Have me hiding at Mrs. Terbeldy's orphanage. That way, if any of them claim to know me, we can acknowledge that it was me, but in disguise the entire time. Connor's face brightened. This is why you'll convince them tonight. You have a great gift for thinking fast when necessary. So, when Connor announced that I was finally ready, I was not prepared for what happened next. He invited Mott into the room, who was carrying a rope in one hand and a length of fabric on the other. Mott's face was pale, and he entered the room barely able to look at me.
"Are you ill?"
Connor asked him.
"No, sir,
We can't do this."
He glanced at Connor with moist eyes, and I understood.
Mott shook his head.
"If you knew this boy..." "Do it," I said, turning to Mott.
It took all my strength to force the words out, knowing what was coming. "You're Connor's miserable dog, aren't you?" Without warning, Connor grabbed me around the neck, where he held me while Mott tied my hands. I noticed he gave me a little slack on my wrists, but it didn't matter. Despite the churning inside me, I had to let Connor do what he was going to do. Then Connor released me, and Mott tied a gag in my mouth. He still refused to look at me, but I saw deep creases in the lines of his face. He wasn't any happier about what was going to happen than I was. So, let's take a minute right now. What do you think is about to happen? Mott knows that Sage is Jaren. Connor doesn't.
So,
did Connor somehow find out? What's going on here?
Let's figure it out. Remember, Mott.
Don't leave any marks, Connor said.
Mott put a hand on my
shoulder and for the first time looked into my eyes. He squeezed my shoulder gently, his attempt at an apology, then speared his fist into my gut. I stumbled backward and fell onto the floor. It was difficult to draw in a breath, especially with the gag between my teeth, and I barely had time to recover before Mott yanked me to my feet again. He unfastened the top 3 buttons of my shirt, then walked behind me and hooked his arms through my elbows, pulling my bound hands tightly against me. I grunted from the pain in my shoulders and down my back, but he gave me no room for movement here.
Connor withdrew a knife
from a sheath and walked up close to me. He put the tip of the blade against my chest and held it there. "I know it was Tobias who tried to kill you before," he said. "But he couldn't do it
because he's weak. A leader needs
to be strong, Sage. Do you believe that?"
I didn't move. All I could focus on was the point of the blade. "Of course you do. You killed Veldergrath's
man when he tried to attack Imogen. So you can be strong, and I admire that. But you must know when to be strong and when to give up control. In a very short time, you will become
the leader of Carthia. Before that happens,
I need to make it very clear what the arrangement will be between you
and me." "No marks, Master
Connor," Mott said. Connor glared at Mott, clearly annoyed, but he lightened the pressure of his knife and said to me, "You
will be king in any decision a king may make. However,
from time to time, I will have suggestions for you. You will obey them without question or hesitation. If you do not,
I will
expose you as a traitor to the crown. And believe me when I say I can do it with no danger to myself. If you do not obey me when I give the command, then you will be publicly tortured and hanged in the town square for treason. Princess Amarinda, if she is your wife by then, will be expelled from Carthia to forever live in humiliation. And if you have children, they will die of starvation and shame. Do you believe that I can make this happen?" I still didn't move. Connor's face twisted in rage.
He reared back and with his
free hand punched me again in the gut. Mott still braced me from behind, so there was nothing I could do but bite down on the gag and groan in muted pain. He hit me 2 more times, once in the chest and once on my shoulder. Then he ripped me away from Mott and threw me on the floor. He knelt beside me and hissed into my ear.
You are nothing
other than what I made you into.
I have followed
through on my threats to other royals, attempt to betray me and meet their fate.
Do you understand? I nodded, and he lifted me back into a sitting position.
He said, in your first act of king, you will remove Veldergrath as a regent. Tell the court you suspect Veldergrath may have something to do with your family's deaths, and you refuse to have him as a sitting regent in the court. Your second act as king will be to install me as your prime regent. I don't care who you replace Veldergrath with, though as your prime regent, I am happy to recommend names if you are unfamiliar with them. Do you agree to this? I nodded again. With his knife, Connor cut the ropes binding my wrists, then sliced through the gag on my mouth. As soon as he did, I spat at him. He wiped the spit off of his face, then slapped me hard against my cheek.
This would be easier if you accepted that what
I want is a better situation for both of us, he said. You are the lowest form of life Carthia has to offer, yet I am making you a king. Stop fighting me, Sage, and let us be friends. He seemed disappointed that I gave him no response. Then he stood and said to Mott, clean him up and get him dressed. I'll have Imogen bring something to eat very soon. Do not leave him alone until I return. Then he wiped his hands, straightened his jacket, and left the room. Connor is just something, let me tell you. I can't believe that he is threatening an almost 15-year-old. So this is something like some kid, probably maybe the age of your siblings, or I mean, you're going to be almost 15 one day. And imagine just an adult, so me, Mrs. Schluger, or Miss Short, threatening kids to do what we wanted. It's absolutely crazy. So, why do you think Connor did that? What was the point? What was his motive? Think about that. That's one of the questions, okay? And then I want you to also figure out, like, what do you think Sage is going to do? You know who he is. He's Jaren. So, is Sage going to do what Connor wants, or is he going to do the complete opposite? Okay? We'll keep reading a chapter a day. I hope you guys are following along. Come to my office hours if you need help, please. I don't want you to just sit there and suffer, right? That's what I say in my classroom. I would rather you ask for help than to sit and suffer, all right? So, that said, love you guys. Peace out. Have a good day. Bye.